You know that feeling when you look at your biggest task and your brain instantly whispers, maybe later? Waiting for motivation is a trap. That feeling might never come. Here's how you stop negotiating with yourself and force your way through the hardest things. You know that feeling? It's the moment the alarm goes off, or when you finally sit down at your desk, or when you look at your calendar and see that one task looming large. That task isn't impossible. It's just hard. It requires effort, maybe a little discomfort, and definitely focus. Maybe it's diving into a massive report, finally cleaning out that overflowing closet, practicing that difficult new skill, or making the commitment to get up early and exercise. Whatever it is, you instantly feel a tug. A gentle, soothing, and incredibly persuasive pull toward anything else. That tug is the siren song of later. And your brain, your magnificent, powerful, incredibly energy-efficient brain, is singing the lead harmony. Instantly, the negotiation starts. It sounds so reasonable too. I'll just check my email first. I need to be fully awake. I'll start right after I organize this one tiny drawer. A clear space equals a clear mind, right? Or the classic, I'll do it tomorrow when I feel more motivated. Today just doesn't feel like the day. We tell ourselves these stories, stacking up a dozen small, easy wins. Checking Instagram, getting a snack, tidying something completely irrelevant, and call it preparation. But deep down, you know the truth. You're building a fortress of trivial tasks to protect yourself from the one thing that truly matters. You are actively, yet subtly, running away. Why? It's easy to call this laziness, but that's rarely the case. We're often willing to expend incredible amounts of energy avoiding the hard thing. That frantic, hyper-focused tidying up session before studying, that's not laziness. It's misdirected energy. The truth is, your brain isn't lazy. It's an incredible energy-saving machine wired for comfort. It evolved to prioritize survival, which, in our ancient past, meant seeking pleasure food, safety, and strictly avoiding pain predators, unnecessary effort. Fast forward a few 100,000 years, and that same wiring is still running the show. When you look at a difficult task, be it an hour of deep work or a challenging conversation, your brain doesn't see a path to professional growth or a cleaner house. It registers a threat, discomfort, and high energy expenditure. It literally sounds an internal alarm. Danger. Discomfort ahead. Abort mission. This primitive, protective mechanism is the root of procrastination. It's not a moral failing. It's a biological glitch in modern life. The discomfort you feel isn't just about the task itself. It's the anticipation of the discomfort. It's the brain throwing up a massive red flag before you even start, trying to save you from what it perceives as pain. And the longer you entertain this negotiation, the longer you stand at the edge of the difficult task, dipping your toes in the water, the louder and more convincing the resistance becomes. Think of it like carrying a backpack full of bricks. The longer you put off the hard thing, the heavier that metaphorical backpack gets. It doesn't just feel like a heavy task. It becomes a heavy mental burden that weighs on every other part of your day. It steals your focus, depletes your mental energy, and poisons your free time with a constant nagging sense of guilt or impending doom. That feeling you get when you finally finish it. That burst of relief and energy, that wasn't just satisfaction. That was the release of all the energy you'd been expending avoiding the task. The central realization is this: waiting until you feel ready is a trap. That perfect, energized, motivated feeling is a myth, an ideal state your brain holds hostage. The feeling often follows the action. It rarely precedes it. You don't feel motivated, and then you go to the gym. You go to the gym, and then you feel motivated and accomplished. The initial barrier, that wall of resistance, is the single hardest part of the entire process. So the first crucial step in overcoming avoidance isn't about finding motivation. It's about acknowledging and naming the resistance. It's about recognizing that internal voice whispering maybe later, not as a wise advisor, but as your overprotective, overzealous, and slightly outdated subconscious trying to keep you safe and small. Once you recognize the resistance for what it is, a primal urge to conserve energy, you can stop arguing with it and start outsmarting it. You understand that the friction is normal, that the urge to quit is part of the process, and that the only way forward is through that first uncomfortable step. You have to stop listening to the siren song, because the real reward isn't found in comfort. It's found on the other side of that initial resistance. So, you've identified the resistance. You know that voice whispering maybe later is just your ancient brain trying to hit the snooze button on discomfort. That's great. But knowing the enemy doesn't make the first step any easier, right? The gap between knowing you should start and actually starting feels like crossing a frozen river. Here's the secret. The most intense resistance is focused entirely on the starting mechanism. It's the hesitation, the agonizing debate, the standing on the precipice. This is where we bring in the cold plunge principle. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a swimming pool on a chilly morning. The water looks cold, maybe even painfully cold. What do? If you're like most people, you might dip a toe in. Oh, yep, cold. Then you might lower a foot. Okay, definitely cold. You stand there, shivering slightly, trying to acclimate to the idea of the cold. You might spend 5 agonizing minutes dipping, pulling back, grimacing, and thinking, I should just get in, but it's so cold. In those 5 minutes of anticipation, you've suffered 10 times more mental pain than the actual water will inflict. Your brain is running endless, negative simulations. This is going to hurt. I will regret this. Wait until tomorrow. But what happens if you just dive in? You feel the sharp shock of the cold, yes, but that acute pain lasts only a few seconds. Almost immediately. Instantly, even. Your body's defense mechanisms kick in. Your breathing adapts. Your circulation adjusts. Your focus shifts from the dread of the cold to the simple, physical reality of being in the water. The suffering stops the moment the action begins. This is the cold plunge principle in action, and it applies perfectly to difficult tasks. The difficult task. Writing that tricky chapter, tackling that messy financial spreadsheet, making that uncomfortable sales call, is the cold water. Your brain's intense internal debate about whether or not to start is the slow, agonizing toe-dipping process. The key insight is that resistance is strongest right before you start, and it melts rapidly once you are in motion. The energy your brain expends trying to avoid the task is far greater than the energy required to simply do the first small piece of it. Why is this true? Because of a powerful psychological concept called the Zeigarnik effect. This effect states that people remember unfinished or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. What it means for our purposes is that once you initiate a task, your brain doesn't like having it incomplete. Starting creates mental tension, and your natural drive is to release that tension by continuing to work toward completion. Starting isn't just about initiating action. It's about hijacking your focus. When you're procrastinating, your focus is diffuse, anxious, and speculative. You're thinking about the entire magnitude of the task, the years of clutter you need to clear, or the hundreds of pages you need to write. That massive scope feels overwhelming. But the moment you dive in, the moment you force yourself to open the document, write the first sentence, or pick up the first piece of trash, your attention snaps to the immediate action. You're no longer dreading the mountain. You're just putting one foot in front of the other. The mental dialogue stops, replaced by focused execution. This is why, often, we find that once we've done the first 15 minutes of a dreaded task, we feel an unexpected sense of flow and end up working for an hour. The task didn't magically get easier. The resistance disappeared because you adapted to the discomfort. You took the plunge. So how do we apply this? By making the start so ridiculously small and easy that your brain can't mount an effective defense. You have to lower the activation energy for the first step to 0. Don't focus on finishing the report. Focus only on opening the software. Don't think about running 5 miles. Think only about putting on your shoes. Don't worry about the awkward conversation. Focus only on dialing the first digit of the phone number. The goal of the cold plunge principle isn't perfection. It's momentum. Once you're moving, you'll discover that the water isn't nearly as cold as your brain tried to convince you it would be. The hardest part of the journey is not the journey itself, but convincing yourself to step out the door. Just dive in. You've mastered the start, and now you've got that vital momentum. But how do you keep that energy rolling for a month or a year? How do you ensure you don't just take one cold plunge, but build a lasting habit of strength and achievement? If you're ready to take these powerful starting principles and turn them into a complete 30-day roadmap for consistent action and genuine personal change, then you need to download my new guide. It's called 30 Days to a Better You, and it gives you the daily action plans and the systems you need to make all the hard things non-negotiable. Stop relying on random bursts of motivation. Click the link below and grab your copy of 30 Days to a Better You right now. If the cold plunge principle is about getting the initial shock over with, the 2-minute launch code is about building the necessary momentum to keep you moving once you're wet. This is arguably the most powerful practical tool in your anti-procrastination arsenal because it directly addresses the fear of commitment. Your brain looks at a 4-hour task. Writing a 20-page document, deep cleaning the entire garage, studying 4 chapters for an exam, and it hits the panic button. That commitment feels enormous, painful, and like an immediate drain on all available energy. It creates that towering wall of resistance we talked about. The 2-minute launch code is a tactical maneuver designed to sneak past that wall. It works because it changes the perceived commitment from a 4-hour marathon to a 2-minute sprint. Here's the simple instruction you give yourself. I will only work on this for 2 minutes. That's it, just 2 minutes. Need to write. Open the document and write 1 single sentence. That's 2 minutes, tops. Need to study? Open the textbook and read 1 paragraph. Need to go to the gym? Put on your workout clothes and do 1 push-up or 1 squat. Need to clear the kitchen table? Pick up 1 cup and 1 plate and put them away. Why is this so effective? Because 2 minutes is genuinely non-threatening. It's too small for your brain to justify the energy expenditure required to resist it. The protective part of your mind says, fine, 2 minutes won't kill us. We can spare 2 minutes. But here's the magic. Starting creates energy. Once you perform that initial, tiny action, a few crucial things happen. The resistance barrier vanishes. Remember, the vast majority of resistance is focused on the idea of starting. The moment your pen touches the paper or your fingers hit the keys, that resistance collapses. You realize, wait, this isn't painful at all. I'm already here. The mental drain of thinking about the task instantly gets replaced by the simple lower energy drain of doing the task. The habit loop is triggered. When you complete the 2 minutes, you are actually completing the most crucial part of a habit loop, the action. This moves your brain from resistance mode to progress mode. When you stop after 2 minutes, the Zeigarnik effect, the psychological tension from an incomplete task, kicks in. You have created an open loop, and your mind naturally craves closure. You've done the hard part of initiating, and now the easiest way to resolve that tension is simply to keep going. Momentum becomes your ally. Momentum is the engine of productivity. When you are still, you have to exert massive force willpower to initiate movement. But once you are moving, it takes far less energy to stay in motion. Think of a merry-go-round. It takes a huge push to get it started. But once it's spinning, a small, continuous force is enough to keep it going. The 2 minutes are that first big push. It's about lowering the bar so low that you literally cannot fail to clear it. The goal of the 2-minute launch code is not to get the task done. The goal is solely to create momentum and capture the energy released by overcoming the initial resistance. In fact, if you truly feel like stopping after 2 minutes, you have permission to stop. You've still won because you completed the one non-negotiable step, starting. But in 9 out of 10 cases, you'll discover that the mental hurdle has vanished, and you'll naturally drift into 5, 10, or 20 minutes of productive work. The true power of this technique is that it teaches your brain a new lesson. Action comes first, and feeling motivated is the reward for starting, not the prerequisite for it. By consistently using the 2-minute launch code, you retrain your nervous system. You move away from relying on fickle feelings and start relying on a reliable system. You are demonstrating to your brain that difficult tasks are not threats, but brief moments of initial discomfort followed by a sustained flow of action. This shift in perception is what transforms you from someone who wishes they could do hard things to someone who simply does them. We've established that starting is the hardest part, the cold plunge, and we've discovered how to hijack our resistance using the 2-minute launch code. But now, we face the biggest threat to long-term success, willpower. Willpower is a finite resource. Think of it like the battery in your phone. Every decision you make throughout the day, what to wear, what to eat for lunch, how to respond to an email, whether to check social media, drains that battery. By the time you get home, or by the time you reach that moment when the difficult task is due, your willpower battery is running on fumes, and the natural, energy-saving brain takes over. It says, we're out of juice. Let's do the path of least resistance, procrastinate. This is why relying on motivation or a burst of energy to do hard things is a losing game. You must understand, if you have to make a decision every single time, your brain will eventually say, not today. the champion level secret to doing hard things isn't having superhuman grit. It's about making the hard things automatic. It's about creating systems that remove the need for decision making entirely. We call this systems over willpower. Think about brushing your teeth. Do you wake up and have a 5-minute internal debate about whether you feel like brushing your teeth today? Of course not. It's non-negotiable. It's a completely automatic routine woven into the fabric of your identity. You don't try to brush your teeth, you just do it. This is the power we need to apply to our challenging goals. The goal is to remove the choice. How do you remove choice? You use environmental design and smart scheduling to create a sequence of actions, a system that makes the difficult path the easiest path to follow. Environmental setup the frictionless path. The most effective way to guarantee action is to make the physical environment work for you. Your environment should have low friction for the desired activity and high friction for the undesired activity. If you want to work out, don't just plan it. Lay your entire gym outfit, socks, shoes, water bottle, and keys right next to your bed the night before. This eliminates the first 3 decisions: what to wear. Where are my shoes? Do I need to pack? When the alarm goes off, the only choice remaining is put on these clothes, which is much easier than should I go to the gym. If you need deep work, clear your desk and put away everything that distracts you, the high friction elements. Put your phone in another room or turn it off entirely. When you sit down, your environment forces your attention toward the open laptop and the looming document. You've removed the choice to scroll social media. Willpower is weak, but commitments are strong. Schedule your hard task like an essential, non-negotiable appointment. Don't write it in your to-do list as study for exam. Write it in your calendar as a hard appointment, 6 p.m. 7:30 p.m., deep study session, History Chapter 4. When it's scheduled, you shift your identity. You move from being someone who tries to study to someone who does study at 6 p.m. If someone asks you to do something during that time, you don't say, I should probably study. You say, I can't, I have an appointment. You treat the commitment to yourself with the same respect you would a doctor's appointment or a meeting with your boss. This involves making the difficult task inconvenient or painful to skip. These are external forces that hold you accountable. Public accountability: tell a trusted friend or colleague exactly what you plan to accomplish by a specific time. Knowing someone will ask you about it is often enough to eliminate the choice of avoidance. Financial stakes: use a platform or create a system where you lose a small amount of money if you fail to complete the task, for example, donating to a cause you hate. This makes the choice to procrastinate financially painful, forcing action. The goal of all these systems is to outsmart resistance before it even appears. You are essentially building a mental and physical ramp that guides you effortlessly into the desired action, bypassing the decision point where willpower fails. By setting up these systems, you are pre-deciding your actions. Hard things never get easier, but when they become non-negotiable, you become stronger, more reliable, and far more consistent. You stop waiting for motivation and start generating momentum through automated action. We've covered the avoidance game, the power of starting, the necessity of momentum, and the defense system of automatic habits. You are now equipped with the practical tools to force yourself into action. But there is one final crucial mental shift that separates those who merely get things done from those who truly excel, and that is changing your relationship with discomfort. For most of our lives, we have been conditioned to see discomfort as a stop sign, a signal that something is wrong, a warning to retreat. If studying becomes mentally taxing, we quit. If a workout burns, we slow down. If a conversation feels awkward, we bail. This constant retreat from friction is the fundamental reason we stay stuck, performing at an average level. The growth fuel paradox states the opposite. The feeling of resistance, struggle, and discomfort is not a sign that you should stop. It is the definitive proof that you are growing. Think of any pursuit that leads to true mastery. Whether it's lifting weights, learning a new language, mastering a complex piece of software, or building a successful business. The point of maximum resistance is the point of maximum gain. When you lift weights, your muscles only adapt and become stronger when they are pushed to the point of failure, a point of genuine discomfort and physical difficulty. If the weight is easy, your muscles maintain their current strength. If the task is easy, your skills remain stagnant. The growth isn't in the rest. The growth is in the struggle. The pain is not the enemy. It is the stimulus for adaptation. This principle applies directly to your mental and emotional challenges. The next time you are facing a difficult task and that familiar voice of resistance hits you with a wave of fatigue, anxiety, or boredom. You need to perform a simple, powerful mental reframing exercise. Instead of thinking, ugh, this sucks, this is too hard, I want to quit. A negative, internal focus on your current feeling. You must consciously switch your inner dialogue to, this is where the strength is built. The fact that this feels hard means I am stretching. I am currently becoming better. A positive external focus on the long-term benefit. When you feel the burn while running, you're not failing. You're increasing your lung capacity and stamina. When you struggle to grasp a complex concept in a textbook, you're not stupid. You are forging new neural pathways in your brain that will make the next concept easier to learn. This reframing is key because it shifts your identity from someone who avoids pain to someone who seeks the necessary friction. You stop viewing discomfort as a sign of failure and start viewing it as a success metric. If it feels challenging, you are succeeding at the challenge. This is the non-negotiable trait of every exceptional individual. Champions don't wait to feel motivated. They show up regardless of their emotional state. They understand that motivation is transient and unreliable. Discipline, however, is a steady engine fueled by the understanding that doing hard things, even when you don't feel like it, is the cost of entry for an exceptional life. It's not about being a robot. It's about being a professional in your own life. Professionals don't only work on the days they feel inspired. They work because it's their job, their purpose, and their commitment. You must make your personal and professional growth your non-negotiable job. At the end of the day, the difference between those who achieve their goals and those who watch from the sidelines is simple. It's not talent, luck, or innate ability. It is the raw, difficult, unglamorous ability to tolerate and embrace productive discomfort. So when the resistance hits, remember the growth field paradox. Stop running from the struggle. Turn around, face it. And realize that the very thing you are trying to avoid is the single most powerful ingredient necessary for you to become the strongest, most capable version of yourself. The hard things don't get easier. You just get stronger. Now, go use that friction as your fuel.